Hi, my name's Shayne Johnston. I'm a co-host of Aussie Tech Heads, here to do another interview, and this week I've got Chad Johnston, also known as OMG Chad, from the TWiT family. Welcome aboard, Chad.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Okay. According to what I've read, you've started your online media career with Brian Brushwood and as an assistant, and then obviously a creative director. Is that right? Tell us a bit about that.
Right. So back, I was born and raised in Austin, and so in Austin, I realized that I wanted to move into the new media space, into doing podcasts, doing online videos, and I decided that career path in high school. I made a few YouTube videos, I uploaded them, and the reactions from those videos really encouraged me to move forward in that sort of endeavor. Being in Austin, I didn't have many opportunities to do anything professionally. I had sort of felt like I had moved through everything that I could independently, and that if I wanted to really take the next step, I needed to learn, I needed to get connections, I needed to to really do something else than just continue to make videos in my bedroom. And the only thing that I could possibly think of was to go try to get connected with Brian Brushwood, because I knew he was based out of Austin, Texas. I also was big in the magic community, so I knew a few of his friends, and I knew that he had Scam School on the Revision 3 network. And because of that, I decided that was where I was going to pursue. It wasn't a guarantee that I would be so lucky and actually end up where I am now. But that was the only thing I could grasp, and so I just went for it. Turns out that my timing was really good, because he actually fills a position in his crew. He needs someone to help him do all of his live performances and manage his stage show, and then also him doing Scam School and me being part of the community. He decided that I would be a really good asset to the Scam School team to also help there. So that's where I got started, was through Brian and all of that in Scam School. And so it ended up that it worked out really, really, really well in the end. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's basically more of a right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah, it really was. That at the time he needed someone to fill that position, and I was there, I was willing, and I could jump straight in, and I ended up being fairly suited to the job. And then from there, it moved pretty quickly into me being able to talk to other people in the industry, which was what I was really, 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 really excited about. And that was really where things really started to hit it off, and it became something larger than just getting an assistant job for a guy who is really well known for Scam School.
Excellent. Okay, so that brings me to my next question about your background and getting into the industry and the job in particular. Obviously, I've done a couple of these other interviews, and I know some of the other hosts and staff just because I'm a fan of TWiT. And their backgrounds all seem to be kind of media-focused, uni degrees, that sort of thing. Is that a similar background to what you've got, or have you kind of come in completely out of left field?
Not at all. The best, the best training I have is I took a few courses in college and high school. And other than that, it's been almost all on-the-job training. And it's interesting because a lot of what has to be learned in producing, in really management of these sort of high-stress situations, and also new media in general, most of new media, and especially short form, maybe not so much with TWiT. TWiT is more of a news-based new media entity, but in a lot of the other new media entities, it's about storytelling. So with Scam School, you're wanting to tell a story, you're wanting to get something across, you're wanting to communicate with your audience, something like that. And that can't really be taught in a in a classroom. You can try, you can get close, you can work on school projects, but really nothing is going to push you to the edge, like either A, doing it yourself, or doing it for someone else who is going to be pushing you hard to really get something out of you that you haven't, either you don't think that you can do yourself, or that you wouldn't have done otherwise. And on top of that, I did actually come to a sort of decision point where either I could go work for Brian at the start it was just a 6-month gig, or I could continue with school. And I decided that I would go ahead and work for Brian for a few reasons, and the main reason was that school will always be there for me whenever schools are very much a business, and they will at all times take your money at any point. You go to a school, they're going to take your money, and they're going to teach you they're going to give you a degree. And a connection with Brian and that sort of business connection isn't that same relationship, and that could, I had the decision to do the Brian gig or go to school, and school was going to wait, Brian wasn't, so that's why I decided to go on down that path at that point.
We have a similar kind of situation here, and me personally, I've taken advantage of it, where we do have your regular universities. We've got online learning, mature age kind of students. And I didn't do things traditionally either. Like 20 years later, I thought, I'll go get a uni degree, And
right,
taken me forever because I'm only doing 1 year at a time because I've got full-time work and everything. But I'm hoping to achieve it one day before I croak it.
Absolutely, and there have been times where it's been a hindrance. Before I worked for TWiT, before that job came around, I was looking for other places, and lots of places really require some sort of degree, and you have to convince someone that you can work on your own, and that you can do it by yourself without that piece of paper that says that you can.
Okay. What sort of other tech things have you been into? Obviously you're a gamer because of the Minecraft thing, but do you also dabble in programming? Do you is it just strictly gaming, or do you use it for more business related stuff?
I've always wanted to get more into programming. It seems programming. So I've taken some Concademy things, and I've some simple JavaScript stuff. It's fascinating to me. It's just I need to practice more, and I need to actually start to write my own code. So not so much there. I'm interested, but truly nothing more. As far as other tech-related things, including gaming, and then just being up on the news, it's just every day there's a grind to get through the daily news and really make sure that I understand it all. Other than those things, I would say my other passions in tech would be more community, I think. And YouTube was definitely a place that I started, and I continue to grow with. And it's amazing to me that YouTube has moved from where it was 3 years ago to where it is now. So I guess on the tech side of things, it's tech news, video games, and then YouTube, and by extension YouTube, just video tech in general. I've always been interested in video tech. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to backpedal a little bit and go back to kind of the time that you were with Brian. I was interested to read that you made a couple of faux pas, a couple of mistakes. One involving getting off a plane where you shouldn't have, and the other one tipping over a cool drink on a famous person's pool table.
Oh, there were so many mistakes. The fun thing, I don't think I've ever had a job that I haven't made a horrible mistake or truly felt that there was a lot that I needed to learn. And so a few things happened with Brian that are pretty hilarious and embarrassing. One was so we would travel the country. So just if listeners are not familiar, Brian Brushwood is a one, he's on Scam School, and two, he does these touring magic shows that travel across the country going to college campuses and performing this bizarre magic show where he's breaking bricks on his head, he's eating fire, he's putting nails in his face, he's doing all sorts of stuff like that. And so with that, I was his stage manager, traveling the country with him. We flew an awful lot. His show was able to fly from one location to another, which not a lot of touring magicians can actually fly with a show. And during one of these flights from one side of the country to the other, I was what is called a through passenger on Southwest Airlines. It's where you land, but you don't get off the plane. You stay on the plane, and then you go to your next destination. This probably would have been easier. Like, one, I think this was the first time that this had ever that I was a through passenger on one of these flights. The other thing is that the information that you're given when getting out, there's no your flight attendant's not going to be like, by the way, please stay on the plane because you're you're expected to just know this. And if I had booked the flight myself, I would have known. Brian knew because he booked the flight, but I show up at the airport, I'm given a ticket, and that's the only information that I'm given. So we land in Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado is my least favorite airport ever because of this story. I also lost a bag there. Their security is just horrible. Like, literally everything that's ever bad happened to me in an airport has happened in Denver, Colorado. I land in Denver, Colorado. I get off, and I'm looking at. I have another plane ticket to get to my next flight, and so I go start following that plane ticket, not realizing that I'm not in. I believe it was Sacramento, which is where we were going, and so I get on a bus. I go to the other side of the airport. I'm looking for this gate. The gate does not exist. There's like a number 12 gate, and then there's a number 20 gate. There's not a number 18 gate, and I'm just frantically looking. I go up to the information desk, and I'm like, I cannot find my gate. And I'm holding, I'm giving him my ticket, and he's like, well, this says that your flight is originating from a completely different airport. How did you get this ticket? And I was just like, wait a second. And so it all clicked. That was probably one of the worst moments of my life, trying to get back to the other side of the airport, because the way that the Denver airport is laid out, you have to take a tram from one side to the other. It's like the tram just could not move fast enough. I get to the gate, and there is no one at the thing. I run up to the guy and I said, I'm so sorry, but I'm a through passenger on this flight. I stepped off and I shouldn't have stepped off. I need to get back on this flight. And he says, yeah, well, our through count was correct.
Oh, wow.
Meaning that they counted the passengers that were supposed to be on the plane, and they got a correct number, so he doesn't trust me that I'm actually a through passenger. I said, I'm sorry, but you can see that my plane is on this ticket, and I can also show you. I had the luggage. One part of my job was to keep track of the luggage, and so I had these luggage tags. And I said, this luggage tag obviously shows that I came from this plane. He said, I'm sorry, but if we're really going to do this, we need to pull every passenger off the plane and check their tickets again and check their IDs again. And I looked the dude straight in the face, and I'm like, I'm sorry that you have to make that decision, but I need to be on this plane. And he just kind of sighed, and he said, "Go ahead and get on the plane." He was trying to like be like, "Are you really serious about this?" So, luckily, I got on that plane. I was the last passenger on. They were literally closing the door behind me, and I sat down in the first seat that I could, and I was just, I could not. Normally, I always fall asleep on planes just because we were on planes so much that it was just gotta kill time, just fall asleep. I was so shooken up that there was no way that I was going to fall asleep on that plane. Funny thing is, Brian had no idea that any of this had happened because he was in his seat, fast asleep. He knew he was staying on the plane. It wasn't until we got to our destination that I was very, very meekly saying, "Hey, have you ever stepped off the plane when you weren't supposed to when it landed? Like, has that ever happened?" And he's like, "No, that would be ridiculous." And yeah, that was not a fun story. The other two faux pas that happened around celebrities, and one was Brian became good friends with a guy named Greg Grumberg, who is on Heroes, he's on Alias and things like that. And when hanging out at his house one day, we were shooting an episode of NSFW at his house, and there's lots of prep. We were trying to make it a really big deal. We wanted like multiple webcam angles, and so I was managing all of that and trying to get everything, just perfect. It's funny. Greg Grumberg does a few things, and one of his partnerships that he has with, I believe it's a charity event. They give him free energy drinks. So he has you open up his refrigerator and he has tons of these energy drinks. So I had one of these energy drinks that I was using to just wet my throat, and we decided to set up the show in his pool room. So we have all these webcams. We have like 3 cameras going, all this stuff. It's a great episode. I mean, just hilarity is happening. Brian and Greg are just like really making the funny happen. It's just really, really good. And so in trying to get some angle, something that was going on, I reached for a webcam and I knock this full can of energy drink right onto Greg Grumberg's pool table. It was immediate, just the flow of energy drink that came out of that can. And then it immediately just sucked straight into the table. You just see it just like flow straight into the table. And it was just like, oh, I have ruined Greg Grumberg's pool table. It was just horrible. Yeah.
I'm guessing that wasn't a $500 pool table either.
He seemed real cool about it. I was super surprised. He was just like, don't worry about it. We spill stuff on this table all the time. I was just in shock. The other thing, and I don't know if Brian has ever told this story, but I made another faux pas. The whole reason that we were in LA that weekend was we were recording what's called a sizzle reel for a television company. A television company we were trying to pitch shows for Brushwood to be a host on, and so that whole weekend, literally all we were doing for the weekend was finding celebrities, trying to record magic tricks with them, and then leaving. And so I must have met. I mean, I've met Andy Dick. Gosh, and I'm also horrible with celebrity names. The guy who was the Fonz on.
Henry Winkler.
Yeah, Henry Winkler. Met him. Met the guy behind. Who's the main character of Breaking Bad. There's a few other TV guys, and I just don't watch any TV, so I didn't know them. But my favorite, and who I was most excited to meet, was J.J. Abrams. Greg Grumberg's big friends with J.J. Abrams, and so we knew from the very beginning that we were most likely going to try to record a magic trick with J.J. Abrams. And I was... back in high school, my first career path that I wanted to take was to be a director, and I mean that was I was very, very excited. We roll in. Greg Grumberg's texting JJ. He finds out that he's at some production house. We literally bust into this production house. Like I didn't see every detail, but what I gather is that Greg Grumberg was just like, "Hey, where you at?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm at this place," not telling him, "We're going to go film a magic trick with you." We show up, we bust through the doors, and there's like some receptionist that just does not know what's going on. I come in with a camera, Brian's behind me, Greg Grumberg's to my side, and Greg Grumberg's just like, "Hey, we're here to see J.J. Abrams." And like this receptionist is just like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm big friends with him." Like, and she's like, "Well, he's in a meeting." And while the receptionist is like, "Please stay out of our production house," Greg Grumberg's texting JJ like, "Hey, what meeting room are you in?" Blah blah blah. He finds out. We just skirt the receptionist, break into this meeting room. And it's like a really nice. I mean, like that was the other thing. It was super intimidating to be in these places. It's like frosted glass windows. Like we're going in this conference room that's like super posh, like a huge table. And Greg's just like, "Hey, JJ, like people are around this table, around a conference table, having a conference with J.J. Abrams about who knows what. It could have been like, you know, Star Trek 3, like who knows. And we just Greg Grunberg just plows straight in and just like, hey J.J., we're going to record a little bit of a pilot sizzle thing right here. And he's like, oh, what is going on? So he agrees.
Reluctantly,
we start to
by the
film,
sound of it.
Right. Reluctantly agrees, and he apparently says, and I missed this, let's go ahead and record one magic trick and then cut cameras. I was either getting in position, fiddling with my camera, not listening to him at all. I don't know what happened. I missed that part of the story. I hold up in a corner, and I'm getting my angle. We record the magic trick, and then I continue to record because I didn't get that little note about, hey, let's cut cameras. Apparently, JJ says, hey, it looks like Chad over there is still recording. Saying my name, this is what Brian and Greg told me later. And I just continue to record. The third time, the whole room just erupts with, Chad, turn off the camera. And I'm just like, whoa, everyone's mad, like, holy crap. So I, shut down the camera and put it away, and it's funny. I almost even want to watch that footage again just to see what actually happened, because one, I was so nervous. I wouldn't have put it past me to have not realized that someone had spoken directly to me when I was in the same room with J.J. Abrams. And then afterwards, I got to shake his hand and say, hey, I'm super sorry that I just didn't hear what you said. And then, of course, Brian and Greg, just gave me so much crap for not listening to when J.J. Abrams was like, hey, why don't you go ahead and turn off that camera? And I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to stay right on you. Right. So yeah, those are my horrible moments and mistakes in my career so far.
I mean, it's good that they've been kind of okay with it. I mean, I know that with the pool table thing, you end up getting an autographed copy of a script.
Right.
So
right.
It's good. Just on the whole kind of Hollywood celebrity thing, I'm taking my family to LA in October. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's it like? I mean, do they just walk down the street? Is every second person a celebrity, or how does it work?
No, not quite so much. You may run into the one. We went another time, much later, where Brian performed at the Magic Castle, which is in L.A. And we actually ended up running into a celebrity. It was the opening weekend for, I think, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the main actor, we happened to walk in an In-N-Out Burger, and he just happened to be there in the In-N-Out Burger. But LA is such a huge city that you're most likely not going to run into anyone. And on top of that, I mean, just imagine, especially if you live in a small town, just how hard it is to connect with someone in a small town of say 15,000. I mean, a city as large as LA, it's almost impossible. There's definitely ways that you can increase your chance of seeing someone by trying to visit one of the backlots. That you could go to the Warner Brothers backlot or Universal Studios backlot and get tours and stuff like that. And especially if it's during the weekday and they're in filming season, you're much more likely to see someone, and it tends to be that they're really responsive to coming over and saying hi and have a cool moment. It's cool.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, we're doing the Warner Brothers thing and the Universal thing, so it should be good.
Yeah. Warner Brothers was, so on a technical side, Warner Brothers I liked a lot more. Universal was more of a, hey, this is the backlot, we're on a thing, oh no, Godzilla's coming after us. But then Warner Brothers was like, hey, let's actually drive around and this is the actual backlot. There's no flair. There's no pomp. This is just how our backlot is. So those will be fun.
Excellent. Right. So following on from that, I was also interested to read that you somehow got a gig on How I Met Your Mother. Tell us about that one.
I actually haven't. I think that's a rumor created by the chat room. yeah, I forget what the joke behind that was, but yeah, that's actually not true.
Oh, that's a bummer. Because I watched the episode and I saw the guy and I thought, yeah, there's a resemblance there. It must be true.
Yeah, no, yeah, I wish. Neil Patrick Harris is actually someone who I wish that I could meet. Not only because he's just a cool actor, but because of what happened with Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and and then How I Met Your Mother is really good. He just seems like a very internet savvy kind of guy. So I really wish that was true, that I was on How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, no, fair enough. All right, so back to kind of how you got to where you are. And Ayaz probably had a similar kind of story. I mean, you were in Austin at the time, he was in New York. How does someone out of town get a job, working with TWiT? And what was the audition process like, if there was one? I mean, with Ayaz, he was just kind of thrown into the deep end. He was on one of the episodes of TWiT, and from that he kind of got hired on the spot. Was that a similar thing that you went through?
No, mine was a tiny bit more premeditated. I didn't know which company I wanted to work for in the Bay Area, but I definitely wanted to work at either TWiT, YouTube, Revision 3, one of the really, larger media companies. And I didn't know exactly how it was going to work out, but I knew that any time that there was anything associated with new media and Brian and that I could be a part of, I was just going to jump straight in. Not looking for pay, not looking for really any reimbursement. I just wanted to be there, to be part of it. So anytime that Brian did any project, either Scam School project or a TWiT project or anything like that, I would always tag along, because I really, really just genuinely wanted to help out and just see how it was made. The other thing is I never went through the college experience, so this was not only was it an experience to maybe get contacts, but it was also just a learning experience. So so anytime that there wasn't the opportunity, I would jump at it. With Brian's show, Brian normally hires an assistant to specifically do his stage show, to manage his stage show, but not to go to these new media events. So I could have just taken the weekend off if he went to go record Scam School, but I would always go. And because of that, TWiT knew that whenever they hired Brian, that they would get me for free. They'd just get an extra body, an extra hand, a production assistant. The other thing is that TWiT at the time was trying to get more and more and more into live video coverage. We wanted to go breaking to a location and to show off either a convention or breaking an announcement, or be there for the for whatever press event they were having. And Brian was a really good asset because he has been live on stage before, and he knows how to interact with a live audience. Live is no big deal for someone like Brian. For a lot of reporters, they're very used to sitting down, recording something, and then it being edited, and live is just very, very, very scary, and a lot of reporters just can't handle it. So Brian was an asset in that respect. And so they were automatically, more willing to go hire Brian. And anytime Brian got the job, I would always be there. I would always tag along. So my connections, with TWiT and Revision 3 and any other new media company have almost all, become have come from that interaction of being there and volunteering. And specifically with TWiT, I did CES, I believe it was 2011, and not NAB, but E3, the video game show, and they just knew that I really wanted to hustle, I really wanted to be in the space, and that I knew, and I was going to college for radio, television, and film, and I had taken some elective classes, and so I knew my stuff, and that was just an asset. So just by volunteering, that's how I got my contacts and my connections through TWiT. At the time, obviously, TWiT did not want to hire me away from Brian, and so even though I could have left at that moment, possibly, I continued to work for Brian for a few more months because I didn't want to just, up and leave, especially during a really, really busy time of the season for Brian. He'd have to hire someone, and it would be, a real problem. So held off on that until it was convenient, and wasn't going to be, a financial detriment to Brian. And then I moved on to TWiT, and it was all because I volunteered, and they were able to sort of test me out before they actually had to put down any hard cash, and so that's how my my travels to TWiT sort of happened. It was through that.
You're at TWiT, and you're obviously working for them.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point, you've done a lot of. It's my perception, at least anyway, that you've done a lot of work behind the camera. You do the switching. Even with Brian, it was all behind the scenes stuff. You've just kind of started to venture into on camera stuff. You've done some guest hosting on things like on iPad today when Sarah was crook, and now you've got your own show about Minecraft. Is that a direction that you want to actually move into? Do you want to actually do more and more on camera stuff, or are you quite happy to do the behind the scenes thing?
It's funny because so my career ambitions were like in middle school. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a film star, and then in high school there was no way to be taught that, and so I tried to move into the closest thing that I could, and that was we had a news program in the high school, and that would go live every second period, and through that I went through the whole list of jobs. I could be a cameraman. I could be an editor. I could be this. And then I just found that I naturally always wanted to be in charge of the project. I always wanted to say, no, this needs to be shot this way. No, this needs to be done this way. This needs to be done this way. And so through that sort of natural process, I decided director. That's what I want to be. But throughout all of it, I've always had be it my own ego or whatever. I've always wanted to be in front of the camera. I've always wanted to be able to connect with people and talk to people and be a face and a personality that people see. And so this actually all of this that's happening now is very exciting to me. With that said, it's very hard to get into that position because lots of people want to be in front of the camera. There's if there's you just look at YouTube. Every single YouTuber wants to be in front of the camera, so there's a really high abundance of people who would love to get on camera and talk. And so I decided that working behind the scenes may not be exactly what I want to do, but it's in the same field, and big cha-ching, I get paid to do that, and I'm more valuable to a company and to people who may hire me as someone behind the scenes than I am to someone in front of the camera. And so that's why my career really came from behind the camera into now perhaps moving in front of the camera. There is definitely a transition that there's no way to say, okay, go from behind the camera to in front of the camera, because the other thing that I believe in is that I'm not afraid of responsibility. In fact, ever since I was young, I've always loved having responsibility over something or responsibility when something goes wrong. It's my fault or something like that. And so now, so that's one way that my career maybe has moved so fast, is I don't mind saying, yes, that's my responsibility to get done correctly, and when it if something goes wrong or something like that, it's definitely on my head to have it fixed. And so because of that, I have a lot of responsibility here at TWiT, and there's no way that I could just walk away from that to get in front of the camera. So to answer your question, yes, I've always wanted to be in front of the camera, and yes, now it's moving ahead that I am becoming more a part of the in front of the camera work. But behind the camera was a way to get paid, and also I've always liked to be able to understand the field that I'm in, and working behind the scenes is very easy, is a great way to completely understand every aspect of the medium and every aspect of how to make something correct, and being a producer and knowing, it's like, oh, the talent is doing this again. As someone who's talent, I can work, for someone behind the camera. I feel more effectively because I understand where they're coming from whenever they ask for something.
So
yeah.
Just on the point where you said that you like responsibility, you like being in control, and you've developed your own podcast that's, like we said before the interview, that's now going to be shown actually as an official TWiT show. So again, congratulations for that.
Thanks.
Where I actually saw that was on one of those behind the scenes videos that Lisa and Leo did, and Lisa made the comment that the structure of the show was going to change slightly. Is how much control do you still have over that show and any other show that becomes a TWiT show? Because it sounds like now it's a TWiT show. It's like, thanks for kind of getting this going, but it's now our show kind of thing. Is that right, or am I kind of reading too much into it?
Yeah, it's not quite right. Luckily, there's been a conversation, throughout the entire process of moving, a show that was owned by me individually into a TWiT show, and TWiT has been super responsive in listening to absolutely everything that I've put forward. And part of so I actually have just about the same amount of control that I did before, except that TWiT is a company, and there's lots of things that the company, the company ethos and the company has things that they care about. TWiT cares about quality. They care about, and there's also rules that, now that it's a TWiT show, we are using TWiT servers, and TWiT servers are, a lot of the bandwidth is provided by CacheFly, so the rule is we have to have a sponsor read by CacheFly because they're kind enough to sponsor the bandwidth for that episode. And so there's been things like that where independently I was just like, oh, I didn't even think about this. Thank you for letting me know. But in general, TWiT is very much a company that that if you take responsibility, there's enough freedom for an individual to say, that's my responsibility, I'm going to go ahead and get that done. And there's a hierarchy that may say, you're doing it wrong, or this needs to change, or have you thought about this? And so truly I have just as much freedom as I've had before. And it's also nice to get the feedback from TWiT. So in general, it's been a really, really great partnership to bring OMG Craft, the Minecraft show, to TWiT. It's been really nice.
Okay, just another question, more of a personal question about Minecraft. It's a popular game. You got YouTube videos about it, just gameplay. My kids live on the thing. It might be an age thing, but I don't see the point of it. Can you kind of just give me a rundown?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's hard. It's definitely a recipe that Minecraft. There's definitely a recipe to all of it because it's first, it's simple. Second, it's very open-ended, so you can make it what you want. Third, you're able to communicate with your friends once on the platform, and joining a server and being part of that community is something that you can get at, and we've noticed that just be it Facebook or YouTube or even something that shouldn't really have a community, like let's say a video game like Halo. There's a Halo community that Halo didn't expect a community to be formed out of a video game, but people, because they love the game, have talked to themselves. So there seems to be a community around Minecraft, and perhaps the casual 12-year-old who gets into the game can also enjoy that community. So there's definitely this recipe for Minecraft that is interesting, and I just think it strikes a chord with a lot of people. The other thing is that creating something, there's a sense of accomplishment whenever you create something, and there aren't many video games that allow you to create, and so Minecraft sort of fills that niche. When you got Legos, when you got your Kinects as kids, or you got some sort of kit, you could create it, and there was a sense of accomplishment. And when you're playing Battlefield 2 or any of the other games, there is no creation to it, and it's just built straight into Minecraft. Even if you're not in a creative mode, the process of playing the game, you are going to create something in order to survive. There's that urgency that once it becomes night, monsters come out of nowhere and start attacking you, and the only way to get around that is to create a house, make sure it's lit, and then sleep at night, and then they all go away. And so I believe that is also part of the recipe that makes Minecraft such a success. It's incredibly funny because I did not expect Minecraft to become as popular as it did when I started the show. I knew that it was popular, but it seems to have only increased from there as the show has gone on. And I expected that the show would have a expiration date on it, because at some point Minecraft wouldn't become popular anymore. So far, that does not look like that is slowing down at all. I mean, it's been very interesting to ride this wave that is Minecraft, because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, how did... and this is probably more of a question that Leo can answer, but I mean, how does... what qualifies a show? What did you have to do in order to get your show a Twitch show? Does it have to reach a certain amount of audience, or how does that work?
It's definitely there's definitely not a written down list of rules. It's can very much be based off of a feeling or a desire to be in one space or another. There's definitely a lot of things that make a show not a Twitch show. So we like to talk to a niche or talk to a specific group of people, which is one reason that I believe that OMG Craft was greenlit to be a Twitch show, because we haven't had a whole bunch of popularity with video game shows in the past, and my OMG Craft is very much a video game show, and but because it's so niche, I believe that we can actually get something out of it and conquer a nice space for that type of show. And we do get pitched an awful lot for shows, and it's like, oh man, I have this great idea for a show, and many times right on the surface there's lots of stuff that we look at and we can notice this wouldn't work for our network, because either it's not tech related enough, or it just doesn't have the right flow, or there isn't something, it's not deep enough. We like to cover very deep topics, and maybe especially on TWiT, there could be a show that is related. This Week in Google, it happens all the time, where we will talk about a subject that is related to Google, but not expressly Google, but because the subject matter is so deep and so rich that can just happen. So it tends to be that when we're pitched a show, we tend to look at the thing that the show is not, and not what the show is. It's kind of hard to say we absolutely need this type of show, and that does happen. There's been times where it's like, man, we really need a blank show, and we start listening for pitches that are more attuned to that type of show. But in general, it's more of a feeling or a desire that, this is really what we need, not so much an algorithm.
Okay, so specifically about what you do and your involvement with TWiT, how many shows are you actually involved in? I know you're actually involved with the big show, TWiT. What other ones do you contribute to?
So I just helping out. Gosh, let's run through. So here, let's. I produce, which means that I take from concept to publishing, TWiT, Twig, and MacBreak Weekly, and technically OMG Craft now that it is a TWiT show, and from that, what I mean is if Leo has an idea that he wants for a show, or if I have an idea and I pitch to the crew, being mostly Leo, or if we have co-hosts on the show like Andy Anako and Renee Ritchie, or Jeff Jarvis and Gina Trapani, and I pitch that idea and they like it, then we have a concept for something that needs to happen. I'm the person that makes sure that concept gets done. So be it an interview, be it that we're going to go, Google I/O is coming up. I'm starting to manage how we're going to do that Google I/O show, and what's feasible, what's not feasible. So on those shows, I manage from start to finish everything. It's from even giving editors notes on things that need to be edited out, and then going back later and checking to make sure that the show published correctly and that all the links are working and everything like that. So those 4 shows, I manage absolutely everything. Then I help out on a lot of other shows, especially with technical directing, which is the video switching that happens live during the show. So I video switch iPad Today, All About Android, and then I'm also just a stand-in for a lot of other shows. If another technical director is out, like I work a lot with TNT whenever whenever Jason has a conflict. Same thing with frame rate and things like that. So how I would classify it is producer for four shows: TWiT, Twig, MacBreak Weekly, and OMG Craft. Technical director for 2 shows every week, All About Android and iPad Today, and then generally help out on as many other shows as needed throughout the week. Tends to be my rundown.
Okay, all right. So when we were kind of setting this interview up, I wanted to kind of really focus on what you do as what you call the technical director, because I mean that's probably the most fiddly bit for a smaller podcast like Aussie Tech Heads. We've got one guy that has to basically do all the recording, doing all the switching. Is it possible for you to kind of wander over to the TriCaster and give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah. So we're on a laptop now, so we're just gonna go mobile here. And right now, I'm sitting at our living room, our roundtable set. So this is where all the roundtable shows like TWiT, Twig, and MacBreak Weekly happen. And then in the middle of the studio, we have what we call the technical director's desk. And right now, John is actually switching NSFW at the moment. And they've been sending all sorts of weird stuff to the monitors throughout the entire show. So this desk actually does the work that in the general studio probably 5 different people do. We have a lighting board over here on the side. Then we have a video router, which is run off of the iPad, which is next to that. Over here on this computer is where we bring up screenshots throughout the show. So if we ever need to show whatever article that the talent is talking about, that's what we do over on these 2 monitors. The middle 2 monitors are for the TriCaster, which is our video switcher, and that's associated with the keyboard, mouse, and large production surface, that TriCaster board right there in the middle. And that switches every frame of video. That allows us to bring up lower thirds and transitions and double boxes and all the fancy work that happens with video. This board is an audio board, and that has every single source of audio that we'd ever use. It's also IP based, so we can dynamically switch it to be a different profile if we're at a different set, or grab a microphone that's not tied into a fader at the moment. It also has like a processing unit that will help us do things like automatic mix minus on remote guests. So if we bring in a Skype machine, they're not going to hear themselves back whenever they talk. And then we have another monitor here. Right now it's showing the TWiT logo, but this is actually 8 different computers all together. So this is where we call up our Skype guests. We also have access to a streaming machine that we can manage the stream. We have a recording computer here. We have a Mac Mini, which runs the chat room, and the technical director can use it as a talkback system to their hosts. Anyway, so that's what this other system does, is remote switching of guests and just about every other thing that the engineers would need to have on hand when producing a live show. And so this desk is where just about everything happens on technically on the technical side of the show. The studio, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask a question specifically about the computer where you said there was 8 computers. So are they like a virtual computer kind of thing? There's like one host and then there's virtual machines living on that host?
No, actually, these are dedicated machines with dedicated processors and boxes. We could try to go down to the basement. The Wi-Fi down there is a little bit shoddy, but there are rack-mounted computers for each and every one of these remote systems. We have 4 machines that are integrated into the video pipeline that have audio coming into them and audio coming out of them. And then what we do is we just mirror that monitor source, and so we try to make the host full screen, and then we just leave them there. We move to another computer, and all that computer is doing is just a single Skype call, and so that's how we bring in our remote hosts, that way.
Okay. The other question I had about the actual desk itself. I mean, obviously you've got multiple sets because different shows, different fields, different topics. You've only got the one desk by the look of it, so that kind of limits you to only running one show at a time. Do you see somewhere in the future where you might get like another one and you can have like 2 shows running it simultaneously, or is that going to be a bit of a pain because it's such an open planned office?
Right. We've thought of that in the past, of maybe doing 2 streams, of having, especially like during breaking news, we might have a breaking news stream, and then we'd have our normal show going on. At the moment, it's not quite feasible. We've created this studio to sort of monotask a single stream, and we'd pretty much have to double all equipment because there really is no way to switch 2 things at once using one TriCaster, or have the audio board route 2 different outputs to create that sort of thing. So at the moment, a second stream would pretty much require a second studio, and we can't really do 2 things at once in this studio at the moment. And then also, granted, we have a very open floor space where one set is just on one side of the room and the other set is on the other side of the room without a wall to divide the 2 sets apart. So that, it is sort of a monotask situation here. Yep.
So hour-wise, how many shows does TWiT actually have?
We have 23 shows. 23 to 27. I forget off the top of my head. Many of those shows last longer than an hour. Tech News Today runs around 45 minutes, and then we have some shorter shows, and we're starting some shorter shows. So we could easily say we definitely record from 10 a.m. until around 6 every day. So, quite a few hours. I mean, of actual program, and live content. I mean, I would say, definitely 70, 80 hours a week of actual live stream content. And then we even have some shows that last 3 hours long. I mean, The Tech Guy is a syndicated radio show that lasts 3 hours that we do twice a week. So there's a lot of content being pumped out of this studio every single week.
Okay, cool. All right, so you touched on earlier about giving us a bit of a tour of the place, and you also did sort of say that that could be a bit iffy down in the basement. So,
right.
we'll see how we go with the basement, but obviously just stick to kind of the sets and all that kind of stuff for now. If you could, that'd be great.
Right. So let's go ahead and talk about this studio space. For the moment. So, technical director's desk is in the center, and then we have 6 sets at the moment. So, We start off with the round table set over in the corner. Also, the technical director's desk will rotate to face whichever set needs to be switched at the moment. So right now we're rotating it over to the TNT set. So that's our second set. That's our breaking news, and every day TNT goes live. We also have a radio corner set, which is right there. That's our third set. Then Leo still does his radio show, and he does a few shows like Security Now and Windows Weekly from this office, which is in this sort of glass box right here. That office is another set. Then we have the what we call Production Alley set, which is on top of a raised platform to shoot over all of the producers here, and it's a sort of a two-seater desk. And they, on the opposite side of that, have monitors and cameras up in the sky that allow them to see program and chat room. So that's the Production Alley set. And then finally, we have this living room set here, which is more of an intimate set for interviews, or we shoot iPad Today there. And right now, Patrick Delahanty is waving at us because he's watching NSFW on the large monitors that we have in that set. So those are the 6 sets we have at the moment. And anytime that we do a show, we either repurpose a set and gussy it up to try to be one thing or another. Sometimes we don't do that at all. We just do whatever the normal set can handle. And then in this studio space, we have 40 cameras. We use these Canon Vixia HF-G10 cameras, and they are enclosed in a self-made box that we have designed on our own accord. These cameras are prosumer cameras. They cost now around $800. I believe that when we bought them, they cost around $1,500. The cool thing about them is that 1, they're inexpensive, and 2, they have a HDMI out of the side of them. It's fairly clean, and so on this side you can see the HDMI out. And that's how we get the video out of these cameras. Now, HDMI has a problem with it in that it cannot travel very far away from the camera. The theoretical maximum of HDMI is around 100 to 300 feet. So we really can't get past that limitation. SDI, on the other hand, can be run much further, and some of the SDI cables that we have throughout the studio will run, very far. I mean, they have to run up into the ceiling, across the beams, down into an area, having a slack to pretty much move throughout the entire studio. So we convert the HDMI signal that we get out of these cameras into SDI with a Blackmagic converter box, which hangs underneath the camera here in a little cage. And so that's what's happening with every single one of these cameras. Here's Ayaz's camera that we use for Tech News Today.
I have a question.
Yeah,
technical question. Do you lose quality when you actually go from HDMI back down to the SDI?
We don't lose very much quality at all. In fact, to the naked eye, you wouldn't notice it at all. The one thing that we do lose is latency. So there is about a 3 millisecond delay that the converter box will add to the video signal. And we notice it in edit. Our editors actually move all of our video or audio forward 10 frames. I forget if it's forward or backward. I just know that it's so I guess it's forward 10 frames. And that also is apparent on the stream. The stream may be a little bit out of sync from what is actually coming out of the hosts' mouths. But in terms of quality, these are dedicated boxes made by Blackmagic, and they're the quality you really it'd be pretty imperceptible to notice a quality degradation.
Speaking of delays, and this wasn't actually going to be an official question, but it just popped in my head.
Mm-hmm. Right.
With TV broadcasting, in Australia it's the case anyway, and I think it's the same with radio broadcasting. There's a mandatory 7-second delay so you can beep out things. Is the internet governed by the same rules?
No. No. So look, that is still true in America. That we have the FCC, the Federal Communications. No, not FCC. They do something else. That's the people who do the cell phones. But yes, so we also have that law that all radio programs need to have a delay. Internet not regulated in the same way. We at TWiT try to stay as family friendly as possible, so we don't delay, but we do try to edit out any of the 7 dirty words that in America are the words that would be bleeped, even though we don't have to. We're not regulated to. So we actually don't delay anything.
Okay. I'm just trying to think what the 7 words might be.
Yeah.
I can think of like 4 or 5 off the top of my head.
Yeah, I used to remember them. What we actually used to do on stage for the college shows is we'd lean in and then say them all real fast because we remind ourselves you can't say those words on stage. Yeah, so.
Excellent. Okay, so did you want to continue with the tour and see if we can go downstairs, or?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and try to go downstairs. While we go downstairs, I'll mention a few things that TWiT does differently than other production companies. First, we don't hire cameramen, and if you think normal cameraman salary could be $55,000 easy, but just buying 40 cameras and putting them throughout the entire studio is actually much less expensive than hiring a cameraman for a year's salary. We have also been using these cameras for almost 2 years now, and that was just a single expense that didn't have to be, reimbursed or resalaried throughout the year. And then we also use fluorescent and LED lighting throughout the entire studio, which most studios are still actually on tungsten, which is not as energy efficient, but very, very, very.
Yeah, I think this is a bad idea because we just dropped out. Yeah.
Nope, it's not. Let me see. I may have to run back upstairs and try to get my keys. So, one of the things, so that's a few things that we do in our studio to try to keep costs down. The other thing is we do everything live, and that means that we can have 8 camera shoot, and having an editor sit down and edit 8 different cameras would not only be time consuming, but very, very expensive just on an editor's time point of view.
Yeah. In relation to going back downstairs, Chad, I don't know whether you kind of noticed or not, but it did actually drop out, and we probably missed about a third of what you were saying.
Oh no!
Yeah, so probably.
So do you want to just scratch that idea?
Yeah, probably just skip over that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I might keep some of it in, just to sort of give the people the impression that we went down there.
Right. Right.
All right. So I don't know if you want to get kind of comfortable again, because I just want to probably wrap the interview up at this point by just asking a couple of sort of funny sort of not serious at all kind of questions.
Let's go ahead and get in a different perspective. Meow. Here, actually, that's the behind of a TV. Whew. There we go. That should be good.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right. I guess so. The last couple of questions, or the last question that I want to ask you, it's just for fun, just to sort of see where where your heart is, where your allegiances kind of lie. So it's just if this or that kind of pick one kind of questions. So the
Sounds
first
good.
one, first one, PC or Mac?
At the moment, Mac.
Okay.
But PC is winning me over because I've been playing a lot of video games.
All right.
But today, Mac.
Okay. Android or iOS?
Android.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was definitely an iOS lover, especially when the iPhone came out. Unfortunately, they were only on AT&T, and because of that, I had to choose an Android phone and have since fallen in love with it. So it was Apple's own fault that I am an Android user.
Okay. Open source or proprietary?
That is a really hard question to answer. I would have to say proprietary because That is what I've been using throughout my entire life. But I believe in open source, and I wish that I could be talking to you on a Linux computer right now. But I'm definitely running proprietary Mac OS 10, so I'm gonna have to stick with a proprietary.
Okay, cool, no worries. Where are we? Intel or AMD?
Intel at the moment. I wish AMD could. Could step it up and really kick Intel's pants, but yeah, Intel just for a desktop or laptop processor. Yeah.
Okay, so even though the AMD are significantly cheaper, at least they are over here in Australia, that doesn't sway you?
Yeah, and it's even worse that there's an AMD foundry in Austin, Texas, literally a mile, maybe two from my home. So like AMD has actually been like it's right there. I just on a performance, like I'm mostly doing this based off of what I have purchased, not off of my heart is with AMD, but my wallet is with Intel. Is what I would say.
Yeah, true. ATI or NVIDIA?
NVIDIA. They have just been better with their drivers, and when it came down to buying a PC, I went with NVIDIA.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Are you into sport at all? I mean, be it either competing or watching or anything?
Actually, no. It's funny because almost all of my entertainment is internet, and my father was into sports, and he was also into radio and television, and just my whole family and friends have been into television and things like that. But for me, it's been video games, internet shows, and books or audiobooks for my entire life. So yeah, sports just hasn't played in.
Oh, okay. The only reason why I asked that is because I had kind of a backup question. I was going to ask you something along the lines of, do you support San Francisco teams now you live there, or did your heart always be with Austin kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Yeah, if I was to answer, I'd probably just say I just don't care either way, because the Austin teams are all associated with the university, which I never went to, but San Francisco teams I haven't really lived here for long enough to really feel an allegiance to. So, yeah, neither.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, so I'm just looking through my rundown, and I think as far as like official questions and everything goes, there goes my tablet. Official questions and everything goes, I think we're done. So, again, thanks for your time. Thanks for spending just over an hour and a half with us. Got off to a bit of a late start because of TWiT running a little bit longer.
Right.
So thanks for being Aussie Tech Heads. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you so much for having me.